Hello, my name is Rachelle and I work for the Vermilion Public Library. Today I'm going to show you how to do a wood photo transfer. I will be using these 3x3 sized pieces of wood, and this is what I will be making. This is an example I did with a photo of my dog Gus, and I will be using photos that I've printed out on just regular printer paper, 8.5 by 11 white paper printed on a laser printer. You can also print these in any normal inkjet paper or inkjet printer, which is probably the most likely printer you'll have at home. These images will be printed out 3x3 so that they fit on the wood piece. This is a picture of Sophia's cat, Walter. And just as something to keep in mind is that when you pick a photo, the photo will ultimately be reversed when it ends up printed on or when it ends up in the final piece. So if you have an image that has letters or words on it, or a really distinct image that you wouldn't want to have reversed on the wood, you'll want to flip that around on your computer before printing it out. We will also be using Mod Podge to adhere the image to the wood. And you'll also need a brush and then something heavy like a book in order to weigh it down, because this process will ultimately take about 24 hours when you need to wait for the item to dry. So we will go ahead and begin. All right, so as you can see, the final piece will look a little rustic looking. It's going to have some of that ink pulled off, and if you have a thicker, more coarse-grained piece of wood, that's going to start showing through a little bit. This is the wood that we'll have in our kits is pretty fine-grained, so there's not going to be a lot of texture showing through. You can remove as much paper as you want until you end up getting the texture you would like. I will be including 2 pieces of wood in every kit so that you can have options. So today we're going to start with this cute little picture of Walter. He's a kitty and there's a little baby pancake there with him. What we'll start with is our Mod Podge. I've got some in little pots here, which will be available in the kits. What you're going to start with is putting a very thick layer of Mod Podge on the board. All right. Then you will take your image. This was, again, a picture that was printed out on a regular piece of paper using a laser printer. What you'll do is you'll flip it over and set it on that nicely covered piece of wood. You've got a little time to move things around until it's right where you want it. And then you'll flatten it out. Make sure you get all bubbles and wrinkles out if you can, because anything that doesn't stick to that Mod Podge on the wood will come up when you do the final piece and will not show up. Also, to keep in mind is any spot in your image that is white or near white is going to not be printed out because there is no white ink in your printer. It will come out as showing through on your white paper, meaning that there's not going to be ink to be left behind on the wood. So like here, I've got, you can see this color is more the color of the wood as opposed to white. My dog has white here, but because there was no ink there, that wood shows through more. Let me get the rest of the bubbles out, get this as flat as you can. And then what you'll do is you'll set a nice book on there, something heavy, and now you're going to wait 24 hours. You've got to wait 24 hours for this to completely dry. All right, so now it has been more than 24 hours, so my project should be well and truly dry. Now it's time to get the tap water out. You can stand at the sink and do this, but I'm going to lay out some paper towel because I'll be making a bit of a mess. This might be better suited for a sink than a table, but so that it's easier for me to film, I will do it at the table here. So you just start getting this paper wet with your fingers. Then you slowly start just rubbing away at that paper until little bits start to roll off. Try to be kind of gentle, and you're going to have to be patient. This is going to take a while. So once you've gotten a fair amount of the paper off and it's starting to look like you can see your image, you'll want to keep in mind that as this dries, the paper is going to show up again a little stronger. So you'll want to come back and repeat this process a couple of times. Let the image dry, let that paper dry, the remaining paper dry, and then you'll be able to see which spots still need to be cleared off. As you go, you might eventually start taking off. Oops, so you got to be careful. I got the edge there, but it adds to the rustic look. As you go, you might start taking off little bits of the ink. You want to be careful around the edges. The wetter it gets, the more delicate it gets. So you can see Walter's face now. Now if I sit and let this dry for a few minutes, this is probably going to get white again because the paper will start to show up a little bit better. So I'll just go back and redo the spots that I missed. All right, so I've been letting this dry a little bit. It's still a little wet, but as you can see, as I was letting it dry, that white paper is starting to show up again. So you'll just want to get your fingers damp and start working away at this. Just be really gentle, especially on the edges. The edges are a lot more obviously prone to peeling up. As you can see on this one I was a little afraid of the edges, so there is a little bit of paper still visible on there, on the edges, but kind of adds to the rustic look. As you go, again, you'll start to pull up some ink. You can see a little bit of ink peering, or a little bit of wood peering through there, but it's just rustic. And I will be including 2 pieces of wood in each kit to account for a trial run, if you will. If you don't have a printer at home, you are welcome to print your images out here at the library. We have a printer here. It's a laser printer. I would suggest trying not to use images that are too dark, because the darker they are, the more ink you're going to be using and the easier it will be for that to come up. So lighter images tend to fare a little bit better in this project. Okay, I'm going to let this dry a little again so I can see where I still need to, it'll be easier for me to see where I still need to pull up paper. So I let it dry again, and as you can see, there's still some paper on there. So you're just going to have to keep doing this process until you stop seeing too much paper on here and you see an image that you are happy with. Just be patient and be willing to set this down for a few minutes, go do something else, wait for it to dry, and then come back. Again, it's normal for little bits of the wood to peek through. If you're seeing a lot of ink come up, that might mean that you've probably gotten as much paper as you're going to get up from that area, so try and focus on a different spot. Oops, got the edge off there a bit. I'm not being patient. I'm rushing myself. Okay, I should probably let that sit for a little while. So as you can see, I'm finally starting to make some progress on my image. It looks like as it dries, you can tell I've spent more time here. Again, just want to be careful around the edges because the more you work on the edges, the more likely you are to pull some of that ink off. It looks like I have better luck when the image is a little bit lighter. There's less ink and less chance for it to be pulled off. But I'm going to continue pulling a little bit of paper off of here, just on the edges over here, and a little over here, maybe a little up here, just very gently. So I'm going to show you what to do when you have finally gotten what you like. Once you've gotten your image to where you like it, I would suggest taking another layer of the Podge and just doing a thin coating of it over the top to help protect the ink, the remaining ink from coming off. Just make sure to brush outwards so you don't risk pulling off any of the edges. Alright, so I'm just going to let that dry. Alright, so that's it for this Take and Make craft. The kits that we will have available at the library will contain 2 pieces of wood and some Mod Podge and a brush. All you'll need to provide is a picture. Again, there are printers available here at the library. If you don't have a printer at home, we can print an image for you. It just needs to be around 3 by 3 inches, or whatever portion of the image you want to use should be around that size. You'll just cut it out, and I would not suggest using anything too dark or anything that has any words or recognizable images that would not look good when reversed, because again, you're going to get a mirror image of the photo that you use. And I hope you have fun with this. Thank you for joining me.